Now again, at 6 o'clock, the committee was formed by the Brookfield Selectmen to review grant applications and provide a summary report of grant disclosure conditions. The committee will also evaluate if the acceptance of grant funds have any future tax impacts. The committee is advisory only and has no statutory authority to accept or reject grants. Now, this is what we left off at. Now, the history of this is that we did good up until June or July of 2019. And then COVID hit.
Oh.
No grants came up.
No.
COVID hit. There was no way anybody was going to meet to review grants.
We don't get that many grants. Like, didn't you guys review one?
Yes.
Like one little bit complicated. It was the emergency management one?
Yeah, it was this one.
Yeah, I was one that.
Now, this is the issue. The issue is, let me start again. This is the draft what we came up with. I wanted to have like a one-sheet form that a department head could simply fill out, get it in your mailbox.
Yep.
That way, as selectmen, you know that you got a grant coming and
Right.
somebody wants to apply for one.
Yep.
And they have to fill that out and hand it to you. And this will show you the department it comes from, their contact information, the grant name, where it was awarded from, the grant due date, because a lot of times they want to make sure that the grant gets in as quick as possible. That's why they come to you at the last minute and ask you to quickly sign on to it without even reading anything.
Right.
So they'll be able to apply early as they can, and then put the grant due date down here, so then you know how much time you have. And the conditions of the grant, these are important because this is where the agreement gets foggy with people, because it's never clearly disclosed what you're being asked to do for that money. Because grant money's not just free money as people think it is. There's conditions attached to it. Now, this has a lot of terms. But that is not something I think we should deal with yet.
No, I'm with you.
Because the process can be, process for these types of grants are hard, because you have to go to a portal on the computer and fill out on the portals, page by page, and you can't save your work. If you get to the end of the grant on the portal and you make a mistake, or you didn't save your previous sessions, you got to start all over again. So the issue is you can never get a completed grant that's from a portal. You can't get them to print it out for you. So I have to figure out what's going to be best for those types of grants, because how are you supposed to know what the grant conditions are if you can't see the application? It's usually the application that has all of that in there.
And so we'd have to go on, do almost like a dry run looking at it, but never submit it in order to get the conditions. And
Correct. And Mary Lou tried to do this.
yeah.
And that's the trouble we came up with, is trying to get a copy of that. Now, when we tried to have Brad do it when he wanted his emergency management grant, he went down to Concord in order to get the grant application. And I don't know why they can't allow you to have one, but
Yeah, you would think.
But I think this has to be still worked on, making sure that the person can fill this out, the department head, and actually give you this to show you the grant conditions.
Right.
Because if you're signing on to an agreement, it's like a contract. You got to read it. You can't.
Yeah,
You shouldn't be told to sign up to sign. So I don't know if you saw that already, but that's basically what the form is that they would.
So it's the application to get the whole process started, and then this then gets the grant committee to look at it.
Now we have a flow here. I don't know if I brought the flow with me. But we had a flow chart which showed us the step-by-step process that'll be used. And followed by the department head. But the flow basically says, you know, you start in the beginning and it just lets you follow through to what the policy is going to be. I may not have that with me. But I think this is pretty much a good start for what we were trying to do.
Right,
Like
right.
for instance, let's just say if the Heritage Commission, you know, if you just write Heritage Commission, her contact information, the email address and everything else, the grant name, everything, fill it all out. And like the immediate tax impacts on the town, that would have to be filled out. Future impacts. A good example of the tax impacts. I'll give you an example of up in Tamworth. They put a communities grant in to put. It's for the South Tamworth Village Association, where they put all those extra lights on the highway. You've seen it down when you go up Tamworth. That was all by a grant.
Okay.
Well, they signed on to it very quickly and didn't realize that the town was going to be forever responsible for clearing all the snow from the sidewalks that they got for the grant for.
Right.
So they didn't even factor into their budget how much it was going to cost to have somebody to go all the way down to South Tamworth and clear all the snow
Yeah, yeah.
from all the businesses.
You can't, you
That's
can't load
just
a
an
truck
example.
up on there and do it, yeah. Oof,
Other example is, this just happened on Monday. The Ossipee Selectmen signed on to a grant agreement called the Highway Safety Grant. You've also signed it with Wakefield, and that's when Wakefield would use, the PD would use it for the DUI they were using,
yeah.
stops, and they would use it for extra patrols.
Okay.
They didn't talk about any of the conditions up there. They simply just signed on to the agreement. My question would be is, don't you think the public should know, and you as selectmen, not only how much it is, but how it's going to be used? Is taking $8,200, you know, every year to do this highway safety, is it doing anything?
Yeah.
Or is it just going into overtime to the police?
Right.
Or is it going? And if I ask them those questions, they don't know.
It's hard free money. Yeah.
But it's an agreement.
Right, right.
What are you agreeing to? So and this all started because people obviously come into meetings the day that the grant's due and expect you to sign it.
Oh, that's what was happening a few years ago when we were getting them. You know, that night they handed it to us, like, sign it. I'm like, there's a lot to read here, you know. And they were you asking questions, they don't even know the answers to them. I was like, eh.
Now, I also started a loose committee like this up at the county.
Yep.
Because the sheriff's department goes out for a lot of federal grants.
Sure.
And amazingly enough, if this was all in place when all the ARPA or the American Rescue Plan Act funding came down,
Right, right.
if that was all reported on, where it says any future tax impacts,
Yeah.
could you imagine?
Oh, yeah.
There would be a list of things that nobody accounted for, and now we have 18%. 8%? How much is the inflation? 8 or 18?
8.
8.
Yeah.
That would have been on here.
Right.
If you do this and take all this money by state, you're going to have all this, you know,
Yeah.
extra stuff. So this is where we left off, and this is what I want to approach the selectmen with. And I think it'd be a good idea if you actually, I mean, if you all agree to keep doing this, it would be good if you stayed on it, because that way you, as one of the decision makers, would know, you know.
Yeah, this
what
is
the
going to
stuff
trigger, you know, once someone wants a grant, they're going to go onto the website or just grab a copy of where it's going to be stored.
Here's an example of.
Fill out the application. Then it gets you guys, you know, I say you, because is Mary Lou and Ed still going to be involved with this, or?
I don't think Ed's going to, and Mary Lou is over there doing the doing the conservation commission or the heritage commission. Here's an example.
So we may need some new members for this.
Now, part of this grant here,
Yeah.
I think this was printed out from the portal somehow.
Screenshots or something.
Yeah, this is what it looks like when it's, and I think Mary Lou had to go down to the state to get this. But it's like, you know, it kind of looks like this. It's just from the computer, and it's
Right,
what you're
right.
signing on to. It's what you're actually signing, and it shows you page by page what it is. But here's an example.
Oof.
You see what those are?
Oh, Christ.
Well, I'm just saying, those are the grant conditions.
Don't go fine print.
So many grants that come to towns that I see can have, especially if they're federal grants, USDA, etc., they have that many terms that no one reads at all. And I think people should, before they read it, should understand what they're signing on to.
Right.
That's just an example of.
Yeah, but it's
of
just,
how
I'm
many
just kind of getting there's a bunch of like, little red flags in it that I would be looking at. And
Yeah, there was a Homeland Security grant that we reviewed up at the county with the delegation actually, and it was a sheriff's grant for sheriff's dispatch and the communication system that he put up.
sure.
Well, it had 150 terms in it, a federal grant, typical grant.
Yeah.
But it had things in there that I never even thought would be in a federal grant. Like, it says you basically don't own anything. You don't own it. You have to maintain it, show you're annually maintaining the equipment, and then you can't sell it because it's owned by the federal government.
Right, and then at a certain term, they have like the right of forfeiture, and then I think it becomes yours. I remember we had something like that in here too. I thought,
Yep.
and it was like, oh, okay. You don't own squat, you know, and it's like, and they said the term was X.
Mm-hmm.
At that point, you could apply for forfeiture, and you can take it, and you know, or own it. So, if they wanted that stuff back, or they wanted to commandeer it, it's theirs.
Yep. So this is what we're working on. This is what I'm going to present to the selectmen.
Okay.
Just give a brief explanation like I just did, which I'm probably repeating myself, is that you need to be reading grants because they're agreements. That's
Yep.
that's pretty much it. And I do have the flow. It's basically a flow chart that shows, you know, what you're going to do in the beginning.
Right.
So, and you have department head meetings, right?
Yeah.
And that's when you could bring it up. That way, you know, any department head. And it's just so you don't get caught off guard and do anything the last minute.
Right. That's the biggest thing. You know, don't throw us in our face. Say let's do tomorrow. You know, which.
And what this also does is, first of all, it's not complicated at all.
No, it's straightforward. It's.
And then it shows that everybody did their due diligence.
Yep.
And if the department head gets to look at it first because they're applying it and they're filling this out, they're going to have to read it to write down what the grants are.
Right.
So they're
Right.
reading it. They may not have known that it.
Well, yeah,
had
it's
all
going
those
to open
things.
their eyes. You know.
And then you know they looked at it
Yeah.
completely. Then you get to look at it, and then you have a time to make a decision on it, and then you can,
Yep.
you know, make a good decision on it.
Yeah, that works because it's like I said, it's simple enough, but it forces their hand, and you know they're reading the applicant's hand to, you know, read it for, you know, and if they don't, they're gonna egg in the face when you said, you know, pointing things out to them.
Because you might find out, like, there may be a grant that says, you know, I don't know, let's say you're trying to think of a condition that you wouldn't be too favorable on. Well, maybe there's a future tax impact for something.
Yep.
Then you're basically making, as selectmen, you're making a decision to allow them to apply.
Yep.
Because what I'm seeing is town department heads are applying for grants before even.
With like the authorization of the town.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
then they come in and they say, oh, we've already applied and got this grant.
Yeah.
And then you're stuck. Do you just simply take it because they've already went through and the money's coming in?
Right.
You know what I mean? There's got to be some way that there could be more eyes on the grants.
Yeah. Yeah, I know Heritage was famous for that. She would go and apply for grants, and they were pretty innocuous things, like getting money for the handicap bathroom. You know, we got money for that. But she just did it.
And the windows
Yeah,
that
yeah.
are coming up.
You always hear about, I want to apply for grants.
But I don't want anyone thinking that this is to hinder people from getting grants.
No, just give the transparency so we know what we're getting involved with, you know, which is, 9 times out of 10, most grants are going to be, straightforward, pretty simplistic, and we can, but if something gets a little complicated, we don't want our hands set with something that has some sort of impact, and we go, oh, we didn't know.
Example, let's say if there was we're still responsible for forest fire equipment.
Yeah.
Now, let's just say if there was a department head that wanted to go out for a new vehicle for forest fire fighting,
Right.
and there was a grant that you can use to get, a nice piece of equipment, that might be fine and all, but are you telling everybody all the aspects that you may have to pay for later on?
Yeah.
Some of the military hardware that comes down is not cheap to fix.
No, and that was one that came up. Brad wanted us to get like a Humvee or something like that. I remember they were saying like they were going to be not Humvee, but some sort of.
It was a military.
Yeah, yeah. Sorry. Yeah, it was a big military vehicle. And he said, "Oh, it's free. You'll go get it and you bring it back." Oh man, it's like you said, this isn't a Ford F-350 where you're going to get parts of Napa, and if we're going to be expected and to maintain it and insure it.
And it would be good because, again, it would make the department head, make it clear that the repair of this vehicle it may cost this much money.
Right, right.
And then you might say, well, before you apply for that, why don't you? You might tell them, why don't you find out if said vehicle is expensive?
Yeah, yeah.
Find out what are the repair history costs for that.
Yeah,
vehicle.
because you find out online pretty easily what the average repair cost is per year, and and just maintenance alone, sometimes it's not even repairs. To change oil in certain vehicles is not full $40. So.
I mean, let's say a good example is like the grant for the windows in here. Now, the tax impact could be a positive tax impact. It could save on energy. It's better for security.
Yes.
It's maintaining, just simple stuff like that, could be written in here. And then there's this control number is the report. If you say you want to go out for the grant and they apply and you send this to the grant review committee, then we would create a control number and a report, if needed.
Yeah, yeah.
If it's something that doesn't need it, like I think that would probably need it.
I would agree.
Any kind of federal grant that has, a lot of.
Yeah, yeah.
At the state level, see, I tried to do this at the state level.
Yeah.
Because I thought it would be a good idea if everyone had to do this. Or at least have it part of the federal grants, that they have to provide the information to the person applying. Because I don't think, they have the circulars and they have all this other stuff that they give out to people.
Right.
But I think that should come with the grant.
You would argue.
So I called the grant. They have a grant review committee at the state level.
Yeah.
But that's just to make sure that the federal grants that are gotten by the state are properly processed so you can get the money and make sure the reporting is done. They don't look at anything about taxes.
So making sure you're filling out the application properly, getting the proper supports for it,
and you're aware of the reporting requirements that you have to have. They don't really, they don't make it clear by giving you the information you need to make the decision.
I gotcha.
And that's really it.
Yeah. All right, so this should be easy to present next week. And it's pretty simplistic, and it's.
Technically, if you want to be on it, if you want to, do this, I think you would have to officially be put on it, because technically we're having a meeting without
Right.
without the quorum of the
Exactly.
committee, because so
Yeah, so all right. Yeah, I'll just move that I get placed on it, and we'll just see if Mary Lou or Ed. I think, like I said, Ed's probably not in, but see if Mary Lou wants to stay on, and that'd be 3 of us. That should be enough, you know.
I think so. Yeah.
You know, so
I
that,
mean, I'm trying to make it so easy, so you just have one page.
yeah, that makes sense.
And the county was doing this until COVID happened.
Oh,
Because if the grant review committee got together to review that ARPA grant stuff, I mean, I don't know if you went through talking to anybody about the ARPA reporting requirements and stuff like that. I mean, because you had to report something.
well, yeah. That's that's what we reported up through the treasurer,
Right.
and we reported what we needed to get reported. It wasn't that, that wasn't that bad though.
I'm trying to think. So that's interesting. So there was a federal grant that was coming down. Who did anybody authorize anybody to go out for that ARPA funding?
It was coming through Mary Lou, where she had reported that at first it was for stormwater mitigation that we had to use it for. And then we also had the other ARPA, which was for any safety stuff, like we put in like the sliding windows and stuff like that.
Did you get grant money for the all the plexiglass and stuff?
No, that was part of the state provided all that through the voting. I don't think it was any grant money. We just got it all shipped to us from the state. All the like all the brochures and all the plexiglass and stuff. But anything else we added on, like the windows and a couple of things we did different, and we got reimbursed through the state for that.
That's interesting, because you're saying that she went out. She's the treasurer. Most federal grants will have you put on the grant application, and it usually is the treasurer that's doing it. That's interesting, because if somebody, if Mary Lou, who's the Heritage Commission chair, goes out for a grant, follows this process for, let's say, the windows, she would have to fill this out first.
Fill this out,
know about it.
And then she had to present it, and we'd have to all of us meet and review the entire grant application. And
Which the other type of grants are like block grants. The block grant doesn't have any.
there's no real strings attached.
No, well, you have to use it for.
I would say
roads
it
and
might
bridges.
just stipulate the money needs to be used for X, Y, or Z, but for the most part, that's it.
And it's usually given to the town. You don't really have to fill anything out.
That's it. No, yeah, you get the money, and then you have to prove that you spend the money in accordance, or if you're gonna what do you call that when you hold the money over for a year? Anyway, but we can. Yeah, thank you. So we can encumber for whatever term they will allow us for. Like right now, we have.
There's also deferment, they call it too.
Yeah, but I've always heard it's incumbent. So I know we did it with this money now because we were holding it for roads. We think we're going to be doing road projects, obviously, so we didn't need to rush to use the money. Then there was money that came in that we had to use it for stormwater mitigation. They then loosened it up and said you can use it for anything, and we put it towards computers because we had like $20,000.
Right.
So we said, well, let's make basically free money. Because it's all it was. You just basically had to use it this year for any kind of capital improvement.
I'm trying to think of how to really, just to move away from just the simple grants, the federal grants and the ARPA grant obviously had a huge impact on the nation.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to think, how can you make it better for selectmen to understand, what effects that money is going to have.
Right.
Well, like the computers. Now, obviously, you're going to spend money on the computers and IT and everything else.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of where to draw the line of what, because the question will be is, well, what grants have to go through this and which ones don't? I don't know why this couldn't be done for all of them.
I guess you could say that anyone that have applications attached.
Is there an application for a block grant?
No.
No, it just comes
No,
in,
it
so the
just
block
comes.
grants are out.
So that's what I'm saying. Like just any grant that requires an application process. Maybe that's when we have to do this. Other than that, if it comes in, it's just here's your money, and it's just written on the record, and we're able to vote on it. It's like sometimes some of the grants we do get, we have to do like a public hearing, whether or not we want to accept the money. I think we did it with that last batch of money. We had to do a public hearing. Do you want to accept this money? And
Unanticipated
yeah.
revenue.
So that's sometimes only stipulations. You have to do a public hearing, but other than that, it's more or less they just here's your money, come and get it. And then you get it and basically get it in the mail.
I think the town of Tamworth takes a lot of grants. They have a private foundation up there called the Tamworth Foundation,
Really?
and they give.
Small town like that has
It's all private money.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
You can apply, and I think it's just for the town. And then if somebody in town's trying to do something that they think is good, then they'll give you. Or if even the town wants to apply for money to do stuff, they'll do it.
Although,
But so that would be another thing that I don't know. I don't know if there. I think there should be oversight for even private funding because
the only private funding we get is usually donations. Someone writes, here's $100 to buy a window or plant a tree. We don't have any kind of large sums of money.
Well, they get tens. They can get tens of thousands.
See, we don't really get anything like that. You've heard us accept checks for $250 or that but it's like, hey, this is to buy a window. So we let the Heritage hold on to them and they put it towards the windows. And
see, I'm trying not to make exceptions. I'm trying to figure out a way to do this where it's so simple that even if it's a, any kind of grant, because any money that's any unanticipated revenue that comes into a town is paying for something that may have to be replaced. For instance, now the computers are something different because you have to have your computers.
Yeah.
But they're going to have to be replaced. So is that a future tax impact? Kind of, but it's not.
Yeah, it's not like we're incurring some sort of maintenance or future debt that's going to be associated with. Like if we got a grant to build a park, we don't have to maintain the park, we have to insure the park, we have to, but with something like that where we're getting money for use for capital improvement, then I'd argue it's no real tax impact at all.
I'm trying to think of what tax impact or what grant would be issued and applied for that's going to have a huge tax effect.
I was trying to think of how the forestry went, not forestry, but the woods we bought there, but
the town property.
Yeah, the town property. And we didn't designate a forest because all the implications. We didn't designate conservation land because all the implications. So we got just as town land to be managed by the conservation. And we voted on that at town meeting to incur the debt of paying $30,000 for over 8 years or whatever it was.
Oh, that was 8 years ago already.
We paid the
And
last.
it was just paid.
We just paid the last one.
Oh, that was goodbye, though. By the way.
I still maintain that you can't replace land. It's when someone gives you cheap land like that and that much land, I know we're looking at it from 2022, but what happens in 24, 22? When land's at a premium.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, so that's pretty much it. I'll do the short minutes for this.
Yeah, as far as the simple grants go, I guess they could still fill it out. Just hire block grant, the contact name, or just put down the treasurer, grant name, Howard Block Grant, board from state, amount, and I would just scratch out amount granted instead of or amount funded, and the purpose of grant, easy to write all that stuff down, and that way there's just consistency. There's no selective enforcement of this process.
Now I'm wondering if, like I said, the federal grants are hard to get copies of the actual grant application because it's on the computer, but that should be fixed because Everybody that applies should be giving you a copy of the application.
Yeah, they're gonna be able to somehow get a PDF of the damn thing.
Okay, well, that's pretty much it.
Cool. All right, so all has to be on it, and then we'll see if check with Mary Lou, and if not, we'll try to go third, or third or fourth, but at least the third if she's not gonna be on it.
Okay.
Cool.
Thank you. It is 6:34.